And that is almost even more of a slap in the face because you're seeing a talented team that can show up when it wants to, but then there's moments where they just completely look disinterested, and that is so much more infuriating as a fan. Kentucky currently finds themselves on the bubble in the latest Joe Lunardi Bracketology, having them in the last four buys. And it's honestly crazy given the money that was spent, how well Mark Pope did last year, that this Kentucky team is even flirting with the idea that they're not going to get into the tournament. Currently, they sit outside the top 30 in net, which puts them basically mid-table of the SEC. They don't have a lot of quad one wins. Now, they have avoided really bad losses. They're 9-1 in quad 2, 3, and 4 games so far this year, but they've dropped multiple games at home, and I think that puts a whole different type of anxiety and pressure on it. And I think if you watch them, you're seeing basically a very average Kentucky basketball team, and that's part of the problem is that it is Kentucky, it is a blue blood. You have all the resources, you've spent that much money on NIL. Why is there an average lackluster basketball team on the court this far into the season? And you've had injuries, and you could say, okay, we've dealt with those, we've got past those. We saw the St. John's game when we finally had JQ and Lowe. It looked a lot better, but then they come back and they lose to Alabama by 15, and then they drop a home game at Missouri. And like we said, when you lose games at home, it's just such a different anxiety that is put around it, especially when you've already been booed at home multiple times this season. It's just an environment that becomes, I don't want to necessarily say toxic, but it's just an environment that becomes really difficult, and there's a lot of pressure filled in with that. And I think part of it, you have to give them credit for playing a tough non-con. As a UNC fan, we played a complete joke of a non-conference schedule. We lost by 15 to Michigan State. We were able to beat Kentucky, and that is turning into one of our best games, depending on how Kansas ends up shaking out over the rest of the year. And so it shows that like our program is not hitting on all cylinders right now either. But I think the big frustration for Kentucky fans is that you have now seen this team play really hard. You've seen them move the ball. You've seen them play together. You've seen Pope up and down the sideline looking like he actually is engaged and knows what he's doing. But then in the very same game, you see them lackadaisical on defense, no communication, not playing hard, not fighting for each other. And that is almost even more of a slap in the face because you're seeing a talented team that can show up when it wants to. But then there's moments where they just completely look disinterested, and that is so much more infuriating as a fan. Left on the schedule for Kentucky, they've still got to go on the road to Tennessee, Vandy, Arkansas, Florida, Auburn, Texas A&M, and they've still got 4 big home games left with Tennessee, Georgia, Vandy, and Florida. And it's hard to make out what's really going to happen. I'm still not at the level of firing Mark Pope. I'm also not a Kentucky fan. So if there are fans that feel like they want him out, they have that right to feel that way. Or if fans think, no, you've got to give him another year. Look at what he did last year. Maybe this group just didn't click. We didn't spend the money right. He's got to get one more opportunity. But realistically, if Kentucky does not make the tournament this year, with the resources, with the money spent, and with the clear talent that is on that team, I don't know if Mitch is going to have any choice but to get rid of Pope. Now, he might not do it. He might say, I'm making my decision. I'm keeping him here. And to be honest with you, some people in Kentucky think Mitch might not even be back next season. So there's a lot going on right now in Lexington. It is really interesting to watch, especially as someone who is not a Kentucky fan. I don't hate Kentucky or have an issue with them, but they're not my school. It's not where I went to school. It's not where I graduated. I'm not a fan of them. So it is a lot more interesting as an outsider looking in to see what is going on. But you guys get in the comments, does this Kentucky team get into the big dance? And if they miss the dance completely, should Mark Pope be out? I know some of you are already Mark Pope out, but get in the comments, let me know. Hit like, hit share, subscribe to enter your name in the portal. Also, we are announcing that we are partnered now with Brandon Bills. So if you like these hats, please check the link in the description. There's Kentucky State associated hats, and there's also UK hats. So check those out, get those in. I really love them. They're super comfortable, super flexible, tons of different styles. So we're really appreciative to be partnered with them now. Hit subscribe to enter your name in the portal. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.